Hi, everybody. Welcome to this month's Inside AWAI, which is very exciting. This is a topic I've wanted to cover for quite some time now because it's a forgotten subject when we talk about places to find clients. So this is how to land freelance writing projects with agencies and other firms. I'm here with Katie Yeakle, who's going to be working behind the scenes today on our Q&A panel because we have special guests to talk with today. So let's find out who they are. Jen Adams is our managing editor of the Professional Writers Alliance, and that's known as PWA. You've probably seen tons and tons of content from her. If you aren't a member of PWA, check it out at professionalwritersalliance.com. And boy, she's been driving incredible content for many months and years now on how to establish and grow your business. It's all business focused over there. And then Les Worley is a copywriter who became an AWI member and then started writing for an agency, and they hired him. And he works for a B2B or business to business agency as senior content manager at Idea Grove. Hi, Jen and Les.
Hello, I'm really happy to be here.
Hi. I should say hi separately, but what the heck. This is going to be great. Quickly, our goals for today before we get into the conversation is to talk about a big opportunity you may be overlooking with agencies and firms and other allies that you may discover need you. We'll talk about the different types. Jen and Les have broad experience with both types, as do I, so gosh, we could talk all day about this. The benefits of working for agencies and firms, they might not be what you think. The pay, what do they pay? And is it good enough for pursuing? And then how to approach them and land projects. And then we'll have time for Q&A at the end. We do have a couple of staffers helping with Q&A all along, but for questions for Les and Jen, I might hold those until the end so we can get through all the content we want to talk about. So let me introduce you to a big, huge opportunity that you may not know about. Marketing agencies and firms that need freelance help, and there are many of them. I have found every year when I'm talking about finding clients, I go on websites that have jobs for copywriters like Indeed.com or simplyhired.com, and I've discovered that a lot of the jobs for copywriters, and they're not all full-time, there are many remote freelance jobs, are for agencies or marketing or PR firms. And I didn't really think about that. I was looking at niches like, manufacturing or software or pet industry or retail. But I just discovered that one of the biggest opportunities is actually working for agencies. And they can't keep up with client demand. Now, there are so many different types of marketing projects that are out there now, everything from web pages to emails to, oh gosh, it goes on and on, 75 different ways. I recently read a report that says, here are the 120 different marketing tactics you should be using now. I'm like, 120? That's for one company? Oh my gosh. No wonder agencies can't keep up. So they need to augment their staff with freelancers and in particular specialists at certain kinds of copywriting, which is what we as copywriters can offer. So we want to cover that. Again, if you go on any job site and type in freelance writer jobs, which I did the other day, you'll see yourself that many of the jobs, either full-time or freelance or remote or whatever, they're with marketing agencies and firms. So that's just one example here. So we wanted to walk through the different types of firms because there's a little bit of confusion about things like content farms that don't pay much versus legitimate, really great opportunities with different kinds of firms. So that's what we're all going to be talking about. And I wanted Jen to start with B2C or business to consumer marketing agencies or firms. They're also called advertising agencies. The industry calls them ad agencies, but again, we'll try to make the distinction. Some ad agencies just do branding or image advertising, like billboards and TV commercials and things like that. They don't really use direct response copywriting or in-depth content marketing, but some agencies do. So hopefully by the end of today you'll know exactly how to evaluate a firm and see if it's someone that you could pursue to see if they might need copyright help. So Jen, take it away when talking about these kinds of agencies.
Yeah, I love these kinds of agencies so much. And as I was reflecting on my writing career, I realized that within a few months of starting my freelance career, I got in with an agency, and I've actually been doing projects with them for 10 years. And they are a traditional what we would call a small shop. It's like 3 or 4 people that are the core of the agency, and then they contract out with dozens of other writers around the world to get the work done. There's also larger branding agencies, and they really, when you think of a small businesses, or when you think of a business's marketing problem, they need somebody to do their branding, picking their colors, deciding what they're going to market and how. They need content calendars. They need to figure out where they're going to put their advertisements. They need to do all the testing, and they love to outsource that so that they, as business owners, can run their business. So they reach out to these marketing agencies and these different firms, and those firms are great at the execution part, but often they are not deep on the writing part, or they have a client who needs something that's really quite specialized in terms of like being a deep subject matter expert. And it wouldn't make sense for a 10-person marketing agency to have a dozen subject matter experts permanently on staff. So instead, they farm all of that work out. And as a result, you can get really good projects from these groups and really premium relationships.
Okay, cool. And I agree with you. I've done work for agencies that they may have a couple of in-house writers who do a lot of the branding stuff. So they come up with, billboard ideas or radio commercials or packaging or things like that, but they don't have anyone who understands search engine optimization the way I do, or how emails then lead to landing pages and what happens on the landing pages. So that's when they bring someone like me or you in to fill a gap, I should say, in what they can offer their clients. So
yeah, actually, building on that, I'm thinking of a situation where I had a friend from a writing group, and they worked for an agency, and they were a press release writer was their specialty. So, they would recruit clients who needed press releases done. Well, as soon as you get a client in the door who likes you, they say, well, what kinds of other writing do you do? And the agency always said yes. You need your web page redone? Certainly we can do that. You need emails? Certainly we could do that. But all they had on staff was my friend, the press release writer, and he was like, I absolutely do not do that. Can you please do this? And what they wanted from me was to step in and take on specific kinds of writing tasks, to work well with their team. I know sometimes, especially when you're starting out, people are very insecure about their experience level and whether clients will be interested in them. I haven't been a writer for that long. Well, if you know how to write the kind of content that these agencies are looking for, and you work well with the team and systems that they have, they're not going to care if you just started officially as a freelancer yesterday. They just want somebody who's going to solve that problem for them and solve it relatively quickly. One of the other things that I loved about working with agencies is that they offer a quick project to payday experience for you as a freelancer. They may have spent months nurturing the relationship with the client, signing the contracts, working out the project schedule, getting the deposits, all of that. But by the time they turn around and reach out to you, they just need the writing work done. So they would say, Jen, we need 6 web pages for this construction management firm. This is what they want on each page. Can we get it by Friday? And can we pay you $1,000? And I would say, yes.
Why, yes.
Why, yes, of course. And they're like, great. We process checks the 1st and the 15th. Great. Works for me. So, really,
that's what. But
I would say it was really simple, and it was and is like a low drama way to put some serious bank into your bank account, and just do the writing stuff that you love without doing all the other client management stuff that can be stressful.
Right. So now that's awesome, and it's very similar to what's happening in the B2B world as well that I've found, because I've worked for both kinds of agencies. And Les, if you can give it a whirl, I wanted you to kind of explain what B2B marketing firms are like and what they're looking for.
Sure. Well, first of all, I missed almost everything that Jen said because my internet connection is coming and going here, but I plugged in directly and hopefully you can hear me.
I can.
So yeah, B2B marketing agencies, they range from a single person that, basically goes out and gets the clients for you and then staffs them using freelancers, to boutique agencies. Idea Grove is what we consider a boutique agency, although we're kind of growing past that point, to large firms. And those latter two don't focus solely on content. They focus on public relations, brand awareness, content marketing, design, website design, graphical design, and all that. So if you're like a boutique agency that's integrated or a large firm, those people need content to bring everything else alive, because none of the rest of those specialties work without content, without copy. So that's what I talk about. They do end-to-end marketing for their clients. These clients will come in and they'll say, I have a staff of 1 or 2 people on my entire marketing team. This is a $10 to $20 million a year company, and they don't really have a marketing staff. So they want to turn that entire thing over to this agency. And those agencies are often very niched. And by niched, I mean they only take clients of a certain kind. Some of the consumer type niches are consumer electronics, foods, brands, restaurants, like the B2B area. In our case, the niche is technology. So we only concentrate on companies that sell technology to other companies. So because those companies these agencies like Idea Grove are niched, they also need writers that are niched. Because I can tell you there are 2 people, 2 full-time writers in Idea Grove right now. The rest of them are freelance. And we have dozens and dozens of clients. And technology is not just a niche. It's actually a very broad category. So there's software. There's people that sell Cisco routers. There's people that do managed services, cloud services. And each one of those clients has a different specialty. And I personally, even though I'm a tech geek, I personally can't write for every one of those niches. So we often look for writers that have technology in their background, but also have a specialty.
Okay. And so what kinds of things are B2B agencies looking for? I mean, I made a list here, but can you talk about from your experience?
Yeah. So, we talked earlier before I lost connection about the difference between an ad agency and a marketing agency. And those definitions are kind of fluid. But one of the things that ad agencies do that we as a marketing firm also do is brand messaging. And that's a messaging from a corporate standpoint. It's not on a particular product. You're not trying to sell a product. You're not trying to sell a service, but you're positioning the company itself. That takes copywriters. Like with consumer copy, there are entire campaigns where you're promoting either a product or a consultation or another piece of copy. Or a web page or a webinar, whatever it happens to be. And you do that through email campaigns and social campaigns and banner ads. That takes copywriters. Every time somebody clicks on one of those things, they click through to a landing page. Well, a landing page for B2B copy is not a sales page. It's not a lengthy sales page, or it very, very rarely is. But those landing pages have to further entice someone to fill out the form, to get their contact information, to get them into the sales funnel. We're not trying to get them to buy something right now. We're just trying to get them to take the next step. That next step may be to download an ebook or a case study or a white paper or go to another web page or go to a video scripted interview that we did with the CEO. Every single one of those different kinds of actions we want them to take, everything we want them to download, everything we want them to see, all takes copy. But not everybody writes all of those different kind of copies. So we're constantly looking for people that do know how to write ebooks, that do know how to write case studies, because those are a little bit different disciplines. But the point being is any marketing firm or any marketing agency that has a client who's turned over practically all of their marketing to the agency needs to hit all of these different points and more. So there's tons of opportunity out there.
That's awesome. Okay, I know that you've been doing so well with this and hiring people all the time. So it's so great to have your insights. Now, here's one that's really confusing, and I want you both to talk about this, please. Content marketing agencies is another opportunity, and we're not talking about the content mills. Can you guys, Les, can you explain what you mean by that?
Sure. I mean, you probably all know Steve Maurer, who's a good friend of mine. Everybody knows him now, for sure. Well, Steve will tell you that the first article he ever wrote got him $4.99. That's a content mill. They really want somebody to write something really rapidly, as well as they can, and pay them pennies. That's a content mill. So their job is to just crank out copy, crank out copy, crank out copy. Now, I have no doubt, knowing Steve, that his was anything but mediocre copy. He always produces fantastic copy. But they were paying him pittance. So that's what I think of as a content mill. There's a lot of them out there, and a lot of them have you bid against each other. Somebody will put an assignment out there, and it's kind of like up for bids, and they want to take the lowest bidder. So if your rate for writing a good quality blog post is $200, mine's higher than that. But if you do, and somebody comes along and says, well, I'll do it for $50, and somebody else says, I'll do it for $10. Well, guess who's going to win? Because that person probably put it out there to get the lowest bidder. Those are content mills. And about the only good thing I can say about content mills is that they will let you get your feet wet. And that is, if you have no samples, that's a great place to get one. You can write an article for somebody, and there you got a sample. But, after doing a sample or two like that, you'll realize that you're making about 10 cents an hour, and that doesn't buy you very much. It's not going to get you very far. So
no, that's not living the writer's life.
Not hardly. So when we're talking about content marketing agencies that produce really high quality content for their clients who are paying good money for it. So, Idea Grove would never take a client who says, well, I can only afford to pay you $50 for that article, and that includes your account management overhead. Well, it's a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Different thing.
Right. So, Jen, if you want to pick up on this, because you were talking about work you've done for content marketing agencies and how all that works.
Yeah, well, and it was interesting because in some of the preparation for this call, I saw, questions come across about that. Like Steve, I have experience in the content mills and content farms. And, as Les said, the advantage there is they will take any warm body and they will give you a small pile of pennies for doing a whole bunch of work. And I mean, that's just one of the realities of the world in any industry. There is always all the low-paying work that anyone would care to do is available. And so I was trying to think about, how do I separate content mill opportunities from legitimate content marketing agencies? And, it has to do with rates. it has to do with the professionalism and the way that they seek you out and interact with you. If somebody's, what's your rate for 1,000 words is not necessarily a red flag question that you're dealing with a content mill, but when they start talking about pricing per word in pennies, it's usually not good. What I talk about when I talk about content marketing agencies would be things that you might think of more as a professional ghostwriting firm. You're not getting your name on these pieces because they're representing the business or the brand, and they're charging a premium rate to do that. Most agency pieces, I would, like true real agency pieces, I would think the floor for a blog post is going to be about $50 on up to $4, $5, $6, $1,000, depending on the type and length of post that you're doing. They are almost exclusively about the writing. They're not trying to get.
And I just want to. Oh,
okay.
Sorry, Jen. While you're talking, I just want to show you what those look like, what real, true content marketing companies look like. And you had sent me these links. Every major city will probably have several content marketing firms that you can contact. So I just wanted to show them what you mean versus the farms online.
That is so true. Most content marketing agencies are not the good ones that I've worked with. I guess I shouldn't generalize too broadly. Are not national or international like bidding sites. This isn't Demand Media or Upwork or Azaris or Text Brokering or something. These are tied to geographic regions, and they specialize in content in clients from that region. Pam had asked me to send some examples of content marketing agencies I knew, and I'm like, my God, there are thousands. Like, take the word content marketing, add your town, and you will find dozens. In Austin, there are hundreds. I've moved to Michigan now. There are still, a solid handful, and we're a town of, core Lansing is 250,000 people. We're not a booming metropolis, and we still have a dozen content marketing agencies that show up on our map. And
I didn't know this. I didn't know this at all. So you've just given everyone on this call a phrase to look up in your town or in your general geographic region. Like if you're in Greater Houston or Boston or anywhere, try this. Try content marketing and then your town or city or greater metropolis area and see what shows up. I didn't even know this. I love this. This is like, hello, bunch of...
I have done this. I am a notorious nomad and mover. I mean, I have worked for agencies in Nebraska, I guess I lived in North Carolina. They were based out of New York. I've worked for one in New York. I've worked for a place in Florida. I've worked for a couple of places in Texas. I've worked for a place in Colorado. And in every case, what they specialized in were businesses that were local to them. We talk about local clients. And if you're intimidated about getting local clients and approaching a business directly, go find an agency. Agencies are amazing at having deep relationships with local businesses. And you just sort of have your foot in the door with the agency, and you're immediately connected to dozens of businesses who are hiring and paying good rates to writers. So it's a fantastic way to get all booked up fast. And if you do good work, meet deadlines, and you're easy to work with, agencies will cry when you tell them you cannot take on any more work for them.
Yeah.
You have to let them go because you're doing some other things.
Right.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Jen, is, oops, sorry. Somebody else, Les, were you trying to?
I was just saying, Jen, you can find those content marketing agencies here in Merida. And I would go contact them if I wasn't already working for one, but my Spanish isn't good enough to write that way.
That's so funny because Wendy Howarder, we're featuring her in PWA next month, and she left the U.S. and moved to Medellin, Colombia, and thought she would never find any local clients. And she already has two, and she doesn't speak Spanish either. And a lot of what she's doing is content marketing. So, the opportunities are are everywhere. When I lived in Ecuador for off and on for 6 years, and I worked for agencies in the U.S. and the U.K. during that time. So like your geography doesn't matter, but like their geography will help you connect in with their clients, if that makes sense. And please ask me more questions about it if it's not clear. You can be anywhere, but they will specialize generally in a certain region or type of work.
And what is the third bullet here, if you can explain, Jen? Most have an offer accept process that makes it easy to dial down the workload. What do you mean by that? I think I know, but.
Yeah, so one of the things that people have told me when they say, oh, you go work for an agency, they're like, oh, I don't want a full-time job. You know, I have to juggle things. What I value in my freelance life is the flexibility. And the thing with agencies is unless you sign a specific retainer with them, to the contrary, is it's a completely at will, as you like relationship. They'll say, we have this client and they need 10 new blog posts for their blogs and they want it to be on this topic. You know, here's the deadline. Can you do it? And if you can't do it, they'll find someone else. If you can and you want more work, just keep saying yes, yes, yes. But if you're full and they offer you something, don't feel obligated to say yes if you don't want to do it. If it's not a project you like or a client you like or a rate that you like, just say no. And that's fine. You know, they are used to working with freelancers who tell them yes and no all the time. It's the same for the person who does their graphic design, their web design. You know, most of these agencies outsource everything except kind of the relationship management aspect with the client that they do.
That's true.
You're like, oh, if you can't, we'll get somebody else. That's fine, and we'll come back to you when you're free. You know, keep us posted on your availability.
And I can vouch for that, Jen, because that's what I do. With only 2 in-house writers full-time, we're constantly having to hire freelancers. And sometimes freelancers are available, sometimes they're busy, sometimes it's just not something they want to do. And you know what? I can't hold that against them. So I have multiple people I have to go to. Of course, I really want the one I want, but you can say no. It's quite all right to say no.
Well, and sometimes when you say no, it makes the client want you more. It's just one of those things.
Yep.
I had
hard
I had taken on, and I had written, I don't know, like 50 marketing pieces. So it was for a holiday sales campaign, and so all fall, I wrote pieces on this guy. He made handcrafted wooden pins, and you could get them monogrammed. And I think I had written up and down every angle of why you would want to buy one of these pins. And the client loved them, and he wanted 100 more pieces for like his whole next year's sales campaigns. I was like, I can't think of one more thing to say about wooden pins. And they wrote me back. They're like, well, what if we paid you double? And I'm like, that's very attractive, but really, I cannot think of a single other thing to say about this topic.
That's hilarious. I remember you telling me that.
Like 6 months later, like, are you still available?
Mm-hmm.
I wrote some HR articles through an agency for a client of theirs that was based out of Singapore. And I had to end the contract. I took a full-time job. And so I quit doing agency work for a while. And that client found out who I was from the agency, tracked me down on LinkedIn, and offered me like triple the money to still write for them. And I was like, I have no time. I am so sorry. That's very sweet. Yep. And also a little stalkery, but
but it's true.
Please go back to the agency and they will find you someone. I trust they will find you someone equally as good to do the work. They're like, but we like you. I'm like, how did you get my name?
So
yeah.
Jen and Les, both of you, I've been watching the Q&A, and we've got a couple of people asking about how exactly you follow up if you've applied and you haven't heard back. Here are some tips Jen provided to us for how to get in with those content marketing agencies. And somebody else said they make you sign a non-compete, so you can't go and work with a client directly. Can you talk a little bit about the hiring process and that item in particular?
I can.
Okay, you go.
Okay, go.
So yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if I go get a client and then I hire you to write for that client, the last thing I want you to do is to go directly to the client and say, well, I can do it cheaper than Les can do, because I'm doing the actual work anyway. Well, that is wrong on so many different levels. That's a non-compete agreement that happens if you're an employee just about any major company. You say that you won't go work for a direct competitor for a period of, I don't know, 6 months or a year or something, and that's only to protect the agency itself. It's like, okay, the agency spent a lot of time and money, nurturing and getting this client on board. So it's not really right or fair for you to kind of circumvent the agency who actually hired you and is paying you too. So that's what the non-competes are.
And I mean, I think I've signed a handful of non-competes over the course of my 10-year career.
Yeah.
The thing, though, is it is poor form. And I sound like Emily Post being like, it is dreadful poor form to go around to it. Just dreadful. In part, for a couple of reasons. I mean, the agency will not forget. So you have slammed the door on any other clients with them. You may discover that you hate working directly with the client, which was the whole reason you went through the agency in the first place. And it limits your options down the road for some short-term gain to do that kind of thing. And I mean, the flip side of that being said is most of those non-competes are for a year. And if you've been working with the client pretty dedicatedly for a year and they want to hire you directly, like as a full-on staffer, talk it out with the agency, because sometimes they get a like a referral bonus or like an, I don't want to use the word kill fee because that's more for projects, but like an exit fee. They can help you get hired full-time by some of their clients.
Absolutely.
In certain situations.
Yeah, we've done that too. The thing is to be transparent about it. Just like Jen said, just go talk to them and say, hey, I know we signed this and we've been working together for a while, but this opportunity looks good to me. What do you think? Is it okay or not? And maybe it is, maybe it's not. There's another thing about that's agreements that's not really the non-compete agreement, but it's a non-disclosure agreement. And that's a really important one, because when you're working for a client's client, you may be privy to information that the marketplace doesn't know about that company. You might be writing about a new product that's coming out, and if you were to casually mention that to somebody in your circle of friends who happen to be in the stock market, they may use that information in ways that you didn't expect. So you'll probably be asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah, or some other form of confidentiality agreement, because sometimes you'll be given logins to people's websites. If you're doing a social media arrangement, you have their social media passwords, and they have to have a level of trust and security that you're not selling that to Russian hackers or posting it on, being obnoxious with it. So, but that comes back into the conversations that you have when you're being hired by the agency, and that's a great other metric to use to separate a content mill from a content marketing agency. Is the agency is really going to value the relationship aspects. You are not an anonymous worker number 768 churning out 200-word blog posts for them. You are Jen Adams, who writes such and such for client thus and so, and you protect that relationship. Within that relationship, they're going to expect you to follow the client's style guide, to respect the client's process and brand voice. They'll coach you around some of those things. That is nice, because the better you do, the better the agency looks, the better everything functions, the more money we all make. So
exactly. Now, Jen, I want to move on to something that you are most familiar with that I haven't heard much about, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. So please tell us about the pure copy agencies, which are more direct response, right?
Yeah, these, as far as I've seen, these are only within our kind of specialized direct response world, and these groups focus on providing a team of direct response writers, like your long form sales campaigns, really kind of more advanced, high level content and copy. They typically are focused on a specific niche. I see them most in like financial and health, although I'm sure they exist elsewhere. Usually the structure is there's a copy chief, a project manager, and kind of a production liaison, unless you're embedded within a bigger group. Contracts with them, that it's project by project, or it can be a multi-year arrangement once you've kind of transitioned out of the test period. They kind of travel in packs. Like it sounds like it's like, you know, here's your pure copy agency, and it's like 10 writers that work together on a certain kind of long form project. And if the copy chief switches to a new client, the whole agency switches to a new client. So
okay.
It is different than some of the content agencies, which might have dozens or 100 clients.
And I wanted to show a couple of examples here, and they don't even have websites. They're that exclusive.
Those are their actual web addresses. Well, it's copyharvest.com.
No, and Dig In does not have a website. It does not. It's been something.
Now, so Dig In came to Bootcamp. And,
yeah.
And on the spec page, there is a web link, dig.coffee.
Oh, okay. Well, that didn't make any sense. It looked like it was the spec itself for Bootcamp when I went to that link. So
it is, but it's not like because this is the thing. Most of the websites are not for getting cold traffic.
Exactly.
It's like some of your branding agencies or your content marketing agencies, they're trying to impress business people who may be finding them cold. But a lot of pure copy agency work is very relationship based and networking based.
Right. That's why I wanted to bring up this slide.
Companies,
yeah.
You need to attend live events. You need to get to know senior level writers in your industry. Submit samples to them, let them know that you'd like to work with them, do test projects, because it's going to be very much about the relationship, how you work with the copy chief, how you work through the production project. Sometimes there's just not a personality match. There are people in this industry that I love, and I could not do a sales letter with them because we're going to butt heads at every turn. And that's not fun for me. It's not fun for them. And life is too short not to have fun making money writing. So work elsewhere. But where there is a great relationship, the biggest struggle I have right now in the work I do with pure copy agencies is they would like me to do more, and my schedule just is not allowing it. Because there's so much work that needs to be done.
That's a great problem to have, and maybe all these other writers listening in can help fill that need.
Yeah, I think the Dig Spec Challenge is open until the 15th. I have to look. 17th, Monday.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. I wanted to talk about a couple of other firms that also might need your help, and those are companies that don't do the writing themselves necessarily. So I have done actually a lot of work for web development companies that I have befriended who they start out relying on the content to provide the client to provide the content, but they soon discover that the client has absolutely no idea how to write web content, and they're giving them either really bad stuff or they've stalled the process because they don't know how to write the content. So the web company will bring in a writer to be part of that virtual team in developing the website for the client. That's happened with me, dozens of times. And you can go to like a local business expo or just Google local web development firms in your area and see if they use writers on occasion with their client projects. And in a couple of places, I've actually been asked to co-manage the entire project because the content drives how the user gets through a website. So what are the navigation labels? What are you saying on page 1 to get them to the right page looking for what they, to get what they are looking for. Those kinds of things. So that is an absolute opportunity for you. I've actually gone to business expos where a web company was exhibiting to get clients, but then I walked up and said, do you have someone to write the content for your clients? And they're like, no, give me your card. We need you. So that could be an absolutely great opportunity for you in your area, or even globally. Look at web companies, and sometimes they have a button right on there, work for us. I've seen that on many, many web development and design firm and ad agency websites. There's a button that says work for us, and it's not necessarily a full-time job. They need people to do all sorts of things, and they're happy to have freelance help because it keeps their overhead down. They can just, hire the freelance help on an as-needed basis, and they don't have to bring on a staff member. So it's really check out all these different types of firms that interest you, and also there are companies that are very niche specific. Like there are even niche specific web development firms. I've seen them. I've seen medical, veterinary, food and beverage. So if that's an interest of yours, start there. Type into Google food and beverage web companies. Ta-da! You might find something. And if you're passionate about food and beverages, who isn't? I know I am. You can just tell by looking at me. But anyway, they'll be thrilled to have you. So do check that out. The other firms that I was thinking of is graphic design companies. They don't usually have writers on staff. And again, they rely on their clients to provide copy, but clients are often not copywriters. So the design person will say, well, do you have someone who can help me? And the client will go, no, do you have someone? And then they'll be beating the bushes to find writers to help team up with them. Consultants sometimes bring in writers for their clients. So a marketing consultant or advisor might be talking with a client who says, man, I really need to update my website. And that consultant is not a writer. So they may have to go find a writer. And then video companies. This is a little image of a video company here called Comar. They may need script writers to help for client projects. Again, a lot of these vendors or suppliers that help companies market themselves, they have expertise in web development or video production or graphic design, but they don't have a writer on staff. This is where you could possibly come in and be a superhero and make a really good living doing that. So we wanted to make sure that you know all about these different opportunities you have that we don't talk about every day. We've mentioned some of the pluses of working with agencies and firms. We will reiterate them here. I'll go quickly through these so we have time for questions. I'm seeing a lot of questions that are being queued up for us. But again, plenty of work. Agencies that are busy can and will fill your calendar with projects the way Jen mentioned. Like she doesn't even have capacity anymore and they're still calling her. So keep that in mind, that a good agency, a busy agency will have steady work. You will earn respectable fees. I'll give you an anecdote from my own experience. So if I work directly with a client and I write web pages for that client, I'll charge $500 a page. And that's including search engine optimization, woven in. But if I work for an agency, I might be willing to negotiate that to $400 a page because they have to turn around and charge their client $500 a page, right? So they have to have some markup in there. But I'm happy to negotiate down a little bit because I don't have to find the client. I don't even have to work with the client. All I do is get the information from the ad agency and I'm on my way. So I'm happy to negotiate depending on the project because sometimes agencies have nice big chunky projects, things that I wouldn't necessarily land on my own, like a 20-page microsite for training a bunch of cloud computing salespeople. I wrote one for commercial dumpsters. Let me tell you how exciting that was. I didn't have to go and find the commercial dumpster company. This ad agency came to me because I know SEO and I work in the business-to-business world, and they said, oh my gosh, we need you because nobody else here understands how to write that. So I learned about commercial dumpsters, and it was a blast, and I got paid very well for it. So trust me, it can be really fun to work with agencies. The second thing is you get to focus on writing. You don't have to handle prospecting, client meetings, negotiating fees, revisions. You know, the agency will bring back some revisions to you, but you don't have to sit with a client and go through every line by line, and that can be, you know, frustrating at times. And payments, you don't have to worry about payments. I mean, agencies that are reputable and want to hire you again will pay you within 30 days regularly. You know, they will be reliably paying you. Training is available. Now, Jen, you put this one. I wasn't as aware of this one. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Well, because here's the thing. Your agency partner sometimes has worked with this client for years, and they know exactly what the client wants, and they know exactly how the client wants it. Like, I've gotten style guides from agencies that are like, you will use this font, you will use these margins, your title will be like this, and you just follow the directions. At first, it can feel a little restrictive, where you're like, but what about my creativity? And they're like, no, just give the client exactly what they want, and then they pay you instantly, and it's fantastic. Other times they say, you know, we love working with you. This client wants to get into doing Facebook ads. Do you write Facebook ads? And I can say, quite honestly, you know, I have, but I haven't done it recently, and I think my skills are out of date. They're like, great. Can you watch these videos? We'll pay you, you know, XYZ per hour. Watch these videos and then write these 10 ads. Do you think you could do that by next Wednesday? And they'll pay for it all because they know exactly what their client wants. And for them, it's a sales point. They can then go out to their client base and say, we have a writer who is certified in Facebook ads. Or we have a writer who, you know, think of the AWAI courses. You know, we have a writer with these 6 badges. We have a writer who's a specialist in case studies. We have a writer who specializes in B2B websites. We have a writer who's an expert in lead gen. It is a sales point for them, and they, at times, will pay for you to do those courses if they think they can go on and market it on your behalf. So that's been great. I've also been paid when leaving a client to write the style guide for the next writer. They're like, we've loved the way you've done this. If we paid you $500, would you write out exactly how you do it so the next person does it the same? Which was a really fun, just kind of bonus project.
I've been able to do that too. It's so much fun because they said, oh, you just wrote all of our web content with SEO. Can you write so we can keep adding content and web pages? And it was fine. I wasn't upset that they have people they want to use for regular ongoing stuff. They paid me for a style guide to teach them how to do it. And I could move on my merry way and do something else.
Hey, Pam?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a good example of both of these bullets here. It's like, so Idea Grow, before I went to be their senior content manager, I was their go-to freelancer. And they sent me to HubSpot training, which is a content marketing platform. So I've got multiple certifications in HubSpot, and they paid for most of those before I even joined the company. They've also sent me to boot camp, and they paid for my web intensive last year. So, you know, agencies, if you're good and if you become their go-to person on certain specialties, yes, they will pay for your training. They'll be happy to because you become more valuable to them, and you become more valuable to yourself too. So.
Very cool. Okay, another point I wanted to make. Oh boy, we're running through the time here. There is exceptional variety when working for agencies. You know, even in a niche agency like Les, your agency is all about IT, right? Software and technology. But even there's tons of variety in projects, right?
Crazy variety. It's like I mentioned earlier. It's like technology. It sounds like a niche, but it is such a broad niche. I mean, there is technology everywhere around us. And when you're talking about B2B, someone sells that electronic component to someone else. Somebody has the software that powers the cloud. Somebody has security software. Somebody has my latest one, the supercomputing in the cloud. Okay, it's immense, and it just keeps changing. So again, once you're in there, they'll say, well, you did such a good job of that. Well, what would you think about writing this for this client? It's different, but you say, yes, I'd love to, or no, that doesn't interest me. So I started out, first things they had me do were writing brochures. I thought I was going to be writing white papers. And the next thing I knew, I was writing email campaigns and landing pages and ebooks and web pages. So, if you're available and you want to take on different projects, just say so. If you've done a good job for the agency, they're going to say, well, yeah, let's try you. We need somebody to do this. So.
Cool. All righty. Very quickly, you're working with pros. When you're working with an agency, these people live and breathe day-to-day professionalism, and they have to keep their clients. So they have systems in place to drive projects and pay on time, provide you with what you need. They're going to appreciate you as another professional who can join the team and help make clients happy. And that means, they'll pay you and appreciate you and treat you well. That's what I've always found. And if anyone at an agency is not being professional and not being kind to you, you can move on and work with someone else. But I have always found that because they need us as much as we need them, it's a pretty nice professional relationship all the way around. We have 5 minutes to cover, but we'll go as long as we have to here. But we want to talk about what you can earn, and we've touched on that a little bit. But one big thing is that agencies do need and have profit margins. They have overhead. They have to pay for the building and the employee benefits and insurance and all that groovy stuff. So they have a markup. So that means you might have to negotiate your rates, but like I said, it's worth it because you don't have to be beating the bushes for clients. They've already got the clients. They earn that commission or that markup or that profit on your work because they handle all the administrative aspects of dealing with the client and doing the prospecting. So you don't have to bother with that. That's time you're saving not having to do that. And Jen says actually her net hourly pay increased by letting an agency take a cut. Can you speak to that one? I don't quite know what you mean.
Yeah, so in my case, I use Toggle quite a bit to track how much time I'm spending on different projects. And
can you say that again? Toggle?
Toggle. And Charlotte, actually, from the B2B Writing Success Group, showed me this tool, and it is my absolute favorite, and it is free to use. You can find it on the web. It's T-O-G-G-L, Toggle. And you can track how much time you're spending on different kinds of projects. And for me, I don't make money. My cash flow suffers if I'm spending all of my time prospecting. Going to conferences is wonderful, but you haven't done any writing for 3 or 4 days. And especially where now I'm a sandwich caregiver. I have little kids. I have older parents. I have extended family that needs a lot of help. I need to just be writing and getting paid. And so I've really leaned into the agency work because everything I'm doing, I'm getting paid to do. And so when I ran my numbers at the end of the year, I had actually, I had doubled my income and my hourly rate went up by like 30% the year that I decided I was just doing agency and retainer work.
Aha. Wow.
It can be really, really impactful. And actually, when I was first freelancing, going in with an agency, even though it was kind of a lower end content agency, was a big part of what let me stabilize my income. That feast or famine thing is really kind of a pain versus knowing that you're getting a set check every month and just kind of what the expectations are for work.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Les, you want to?
Yeah, the same thing happened to me. I mean, when I started working as a freelancer for Idea Grow, over time it got to where they were giving me more and more and more projects, and I was spending less and less of my time prospecting for clients. So I went from spending half of my time prospecting to spending 10% of my time prospecting, and my income more than doubled. So Jen's right. Now, the fees that you were talking about, the profit sharing there, the the admin overhead, I can talk to that too, because now that I'm full-time with Idea Grow, I do all that admin and prospecting for the freelancers that I hire. So yeah, the clients actually have to pay my part of it too. So it evens out. Even if you're making less on the actual project that you're working on than if you got it for yourself, you're actually making a net gain because you're not spending a lot of dead time.
Exactly.
You don't get paid while you're prospecting.
Yep, perfect. Okay, exactly. So rates are often set. This is something you need to know. They'll tell you the fee, and you can accept or decline. In my case, it was a little different because they asked me what I normally charge, only because they don't do that kind of work every day, web content with search engine optimization woven in. So I told them what I typically charge, and then they came back with an offer, and I accepted it. And then the pure copy agencies do share royalties. They're probably the only type of firm or agency we're talking about here that will do royalties. And if you don't know what that means, gosh, it's another whole conversation. But basically, it's just a percentage of the results. They would pay you as kind of a bonus. But Jen has seen in some of her work that she's gotten rewards such as bonuses or pay increases or increases in the loyalty split, which again is strictly for those direct response copy agencies. All right.
Well,
now,
while agencies have given bonuses as well, but
yeah.
the royalties are definitely pure copy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So while you may be worried that you'll be left with meager scraps, good agencies are not bottom fishing. So as we've said again and again, they're not looking for the 5 cents an hour writer. They have to produce quality for their clients. So they're looking for quality and they're willing to pay for it, right? So keep that in mind. And they may even give you the best projects if you have specialized skills. Again, my writing, my knowledge of SEO has really helped me get good gigs because they didn't have anyone else. So that's why I was able to get $400 a page. All right, let's see. Oh, landing them. We did talk about some of the ways to get in with agencies and clients. Like we said, some of them even have work for us on their websites, but we're going to cover just a couple more things. So to find agencies, first of all, look on the job boards I mentioned. I should have listed them here, but there are 3 of them, 3 main ones that I know of, and you can Google job boards. But the first one is Indeed.com. Second one is called SimplyHired.com, and the third one is FlexJobs.com. FlexJobs plural, and those are particularly good places to find remote jobs or freelance jobs, because that's why it's called Flex Jobs. Also, LinkedIn, we have a whole free Inside AWAI session on our Inside AWAI page on LinkedIn. Now, what to do on LinkedIn? You can search for agency people on LinkedIn and see if they're looking for writers. Local firms, like we said, you can go online and search content marketing and then put your town in there. Sorry, content marketing agencies. Put your town in there and see what shows up. Or you can go to a local chamber of commerce or business expo and see if there are agencies and web firms and video companies there and say, hey, you need any writing help? And then again, niche agencies like Les is with IT and software. There are medical specific agencies. There are any big niche industry you can think of, software, construction, travel, hospitality. They all have very specific marketing firms and agencies that you could reach out to if that's a particular interest or background of yours. Jen gave me this sample job posting for investment and economics writers. This was just something she saw online, just to give you an example, but you will see these on those job boards or even on the Work for Us pages of ad agencies that you may find. And finally, final tips for Getting Hired Once and Again is this is a little collection of tips that we put together, and then I want to open the floor for questions. We have a lot of questions. So be professional always, just like they are. Be likable and easy to work with. Be open to feedback and copy improvement. These are rules for even working directly with clients, but particularly for agencies. Show a niche interest. If they happen to be a food and beverage web development company, show that you have that background and that passion and those interests. And then follow up. They're very busy people. They may not respond right away. We've had a few questions about how you follow up if you did apply for a job or a freelance thing. Les, do you want to talk about how to follow up with you if you were looking for people for your B2B firm?
Yeah, sure. And in fact, I've been telling a lot of people this from the time I was at the job fair in boot camp last month. So a lot of people follow up with me, and they send me samples, and some of them are very long emails, and I usually tell them, it's like, okay, I got your message, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And if I don't, ping me again or message me again. Follow up with me now. My advice to you is follow up, but don't be a pest.
Right.
Because it kind of goes back to that one of those last bullets on the last slide, which basically says agencies and persons in agencies are very busy. They are juggling. I'm juggling 15 clients just of my own. And that's not just the copy aspect of it. So there are days and weeks sometimes when I don't come up for air. So don't take it the wrong way. Just assume that they're very busy and that you can follow up with them. Now, if they say, I don't have anything for you right now, and end it with that way, take a hint. But, often it's just like, we don't have anything right now, but keep in touch because we might. So it's like keeping yourself top of mind, keeping yourself in their face without, being too much of a pest. Sometimes it's just not a fit. Sometimes it's just we're just busy.
Yep, that's fine. And it's with any client. They're busy. It doesn't mean that they're ignoring you or intentionally fending you off. They're just busy. Now,
well, and sometimes if you get a new certification or a skill, or if you've had a big win with another client, drop your agency contact a note and say, hey, I'm just following up, and I wanted to let you know that I just ran this upsell campaign for, whatever client that's also in your space or something that you do.
Absolutely.
And we got a 30% response. I've attached the sample if you want to look at it. That's a great way to reopen a conversation or remind them that you have these skills.
Happened just the other day.
Aha.
Just the other day. Yep.
Cool.
So.
All right. A question is, what if you're not a subject matter expert or SME? And I wanted to say, if you've been alive on the planet, you experience in something. So whether you've been a parent or a gardener or a kayaker, or you make incredible pies, who knows what, you are a subject matter in something in your life. Everyone is. So, and you don't have to be, you can learn too.
Exactly. Yeah. I was about to say that too. If I know just enough that I'm in the niche, and I can get in a little bit, and I'm a freelancer and I do a good job of it, I'm a good researcher, I become an SME very quickly. Mm-hmm. And it's not just in the technology or the health industry or whatever that you happen to be writing in. You become a subject matter expert on a particular type of content. You become a subject matter expert for that particular client. So subject matter expert doesn't just mean your knowledge on a particular subject. It can mean the type of copy that you excel at and really excites you. And they can see, or I can see, that you're really good at. And also, you become indispensable for particular clients for me. Hey, remember, indispensable can feed back into increased fees. I'm not saying you should charge me more, but being a subject matter expert can mean several different things. And once you get in there and become a subject matter expert, and then you become really, really valuable to agencies.
And there are some agencies too who really need a jack of all trades.
Yep.
They'll tell you that, like, we are so busy we can't even keep up. Can you write this? What about this? What about this? They will hunt around until they find something that you want to do.
Yep.
Or they'll just load you up and be like, let's learn it together. Here we go.
Or it could be just like you did such a good job on that. I know this is totally unrelated, but do you have time to look at this? Like, sure. Well, let me check my schedule. Sure I do.
Yeah. And sometimes just letting your agency partners know that you're not scared to try new things will really help too. Because some specialists don't want to write anything outside of their specialty. And that limits how the agency can sell you on to their clients. And sometimes they prefer someone more flexible who's willing to give anything a go.
Right.
Depends on the type and nature of the agency partner that you have.
Very true. They're all a bit different, so be flexible, and you can ask them directly too. Carmen is asking, will we discuss how working for an agency is different from the dreaded job? Well, as a freelancer who is working for an agency, you have a lot of control and you have a lot of security. So Jen talked about how if she gets her plate too full, she can say, I'm sorry, I don't want to do that, or I'm not available. And you don't have to show up every day, right? You get to pick your schedule, but there's a wonderful comfort and stability knowing that if they love you, they're going to keep your pipeline busy.
Yes, and I mean, there are some agencies who will, sometimes as you're reading these descriptions, you're like, man, that really does sound like a job. And just say no. You need to come in for this staff meeting and you need to do this and this and this. And you're like, if I was an employee, that would be fine, but I am your freelancer, so I am not going to do that. And that's just healthy boundary setting for you and for them.
Right. Another question is, what about contracts prior to starting any project with an agency, or retainer contracts? Are those a thing in the agency world?
I can talk to that.
Go for it.
Okay, so with an agency, we talked about non-disclosures and non-competes and things like that. Another type of document you may be asked to sign is a master service agreement. And that master service agreement pretty much says, on any project that we work on, these are some rules that we have. Okay, they're like terms of engagement sort of thing. It may even, your non-compete might actually even be in the master service agreement. And then when you go to do each particular project, every project is really governed at the highest level by the standard contract you've signed, the master service agreement. And then you'll have either an addendum or even just an email. We don't stand on too much formality there. It's like, if we agree in an email that we're going to pay you this much for this and you're okay with it, well, that email is an official document. It's stored away, and that's all you need. But you do want some sort of terms of engagement, like a master service agreement. It may be called something else in a different agency, but you'll probably be asked to sign one.
Okay, cool. Eileen is asking, where's a good place to seek commercial writing jobs for radio broadcasting? And I thought I typed an answer already, but maybe she missed it. But I would say go to agencies and ask if they do commercials for clients and if they need help with commercial writing for radio and TV. Just the way you would ask if they have any content writing needs, you can ask if they have any radio commercial or TV commercial needs. Really just ask the source is what you can do. Most agencies are well-rounded, and they will be doing that for clients. So basically, whatever a client needs, a marketing firm or agency will try to offer that service. So if they feel that client needs radio and TV commercials, they'll be offering that service, and so they might need you. Let's see. What is the general rule about using pieces on your website to show your work? If you guys have any thoughts on that, like let's say I wrote the commercial dumpster
I do.
website. Okay, go for it.
Okay, so I said earlier, I answered somebody's question earlier that was kind of along this, and they said that a content mill that they had written for wouldn't allow them to use their work or their samples, as samples, or their work as samples. My answer to that was, you can use them as samples, you just may not be able to publish them publicly on your website. And there's a reason for that. And that is that when you're working with an agency, the agency has many clients. And those clients are not usually aware of who is doing the writing for them. So you're writing for the agency is actually producing that copy for a client. And that client, especially if it's a blog post and has a name on it, you're not going to get your name on it, because somebody at that client is going to get their byline for that. So if you were to take their sample and you were to put it on your own website, and somebody were to search for a key phrase on the client site and yours also showed up, that's a problem.
Hello, is that a client calling you?
It actually is. But see, so it's a little bit of a problem, and there's a couple ways to solve that. One is to do it anyway. You can get in trouble for that. I don't really suggest it, but the rule about permission versus forgiveness, it kind of applies. Another way is to simply hold that sample in your back pocket until somebody asks for it, because then you're not divulging it publicly, you're giving it directly to a prospect. And the other way is to structure your website so that Google and all the other search engines don't look at that particular page. And so they never see, you'll never show up in the search results for that particular sample. And your samples aren't really what you want to show up in the search engine anyway, it's the rest of your pages. So anyway, that's it.
Okay, cool. Let's see. So I recently applied to an agency using their process, which was to fill out an online application. I got an auto reply thanking me and saying they didn't need anyone now, but would keep my application on file. How do I follow up, or do I just wait for them? You sort of answered this, Les, but very quickly, can you reiterate?
Yes. Don't wait for them to follow up with you, because as with any other company, an agency is going to have a queue full of these, full of applicants, and the squeaky wheel is going to get the oil. And by that, I don't mean be a pest. I think somebody else asked this question: how do you keep top of mind without being a pest? Use your own judgment.
Yeah.
Don't follow up every day. Don't follow up every other day. But if you put your application in there and you haven't heard anything after a week, send them a just checking sort of message.
Yeah.
You don't hear from them, they'll wait a couple of weeks. And after that, some companies sadly will just say, they don't think they have to respond. And that's not just an agency thing, that's anyone. So don't take it hard feelings. Companies can be a little bit hard these days.
Well, and the other thing too is, don't sit waiting by the phone. Get out there, do some things, and then you have something to follow up with. I've been working on this. Look at my new sample. Look at my new test results. See what I did for this other client, with the, of course, implication that I could help you with this kind of thing too. So make yourself more and more valuable every time you reach out.
Awesome. And on that note, I think we've answered every question. I've been typing madly while you guys have been talking, and I think we're good. And this has been tremendous. I learned a lot today because I have worked with agencies before, but not necessarily the kind that you brought up today. And also, your experience has been so valuable as a lesson to how it can be a great thing to tap into that opportunity with agency. So I highly encourage you, if you didn't get to keep notes on everything, we will post the recording so you can watch it again. And with that, I thank you both. Thank you so much, Jen, for your time.
No problem.
No problem.
And thank you, Les. And
No problem.
we will, yeah, you guys are awesome as always. Thank you, thank you. We could keep going, but everybody has other work to do, right? So we will have another session next month. I don't know what it is right now, but we'll come up with something amazing as we get questions from you all and we think about what you'd like to know. So thank you again for being with us today, and have a great day. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.